All right, welcome in. Off and running, and about a third of the way through activities and exercises for the semester. And we're going to get a little bit farther into doing some secondary feature modeling, get a little bit more refined in our skills. We're going to practice a couple of new things and new tools for today. So begin with exercise 4. We're going to start out here on page 44 in the book, available at Vertania1.com and also on your course in D2L. So we're looking at creating essentially a control wheel, a shutoff for, think of something could be on a plumbing system, on a heating system in a larger building, or as a smaller steering wheel. You could kind of morph this into a little bit as well. So we're going to practice a couple of new skills to get this one done. We're going to start off with a couple of ones we are pretty familiar with. So let's get going with a new part file so that we can come up with something that looks like this. And you're going to have a little bit of flexibility in this. Feel free to make this your own to a degree when it comes to the number of copies of these features that you're going to add. You got some flexibility on here. Let's try and keep the center tight on here, but room to play around a little bit on the other stuff. So here we go for the new file. And we're going with, this is exercise 4. E4, I'm going to go with video on this one since I have another one called that already. And everything is spec'd out in here. We're going to start off using that revolve tool so that we can make the center part of that steering wheel or that shutoff handle, whatever you want to refer to it as. So we're going to go ahead and start out with a revolve option. We're going to get some planes here. We're going to go ahead and do that revolve on the front plane. So by choosing that, we're going to be starting off in sketch mode. Get back to our front face here. And here we go. Essentially, we're starting out with a box that is going to be 3 inches tall and 1 inch wide. Let's make sure, since we are working on creating something that's a revolved feature, let's start off and get that axis in there. Generally speaking, we can grab an axis from the CSYS while we're doing this too, but this gives us a good reference. So I'm going to go with a rectangle. I'm going to go corner rectangle. I'm going to start that rectangle down on that origin, right on that axis. So when I revolve it, things come around real nice. I'm going to left click to end that. Double click on that center and get these dimensions in order because we're a little bit out of line and definitely a little too big right now. 3 inches, 1 inches. We have a chamfer up at the top, which is 45 degrees, and it is 1/4 of an inch long on each side. So let's zoom in a little bit, get in that chamfer tool. We're going to put approximately where we want it to be on each, left click on each, and it's going to give us something right there. So now we can end that. We can go in and we can edit these 2 dimensions so that we get things right. It's spec'd out at a 45 degree angle and 1/4 of an inch on the one leg of this. So you are free to go ahead and do it that way. You should know, and if you don't know by now, good time to learn the fact that if you have a 45 degree angle, each of these sides here, remaining sides of this triangle, are going to be the same length, right? 45 degree angles on each side, we're going to have the same length on each side. So we got that. We also have a arc feature on there, which we're going to use by way of a circle. Let's do a center and a point. We need that to be about 1 inch in diameter. Remember, we're going to add that feature and then we're going to go ahead and locate it. So first things first, let's get the dimensions right of this thing. It is 1 inch in diameter. Location wise, it is going to be 1.68 inches, the center from the bottom. And it's also going to be vertically in line with this point here. or 1/4 of an inch in. So let's use a different constraint here. Let's use a vertical constraint. What that's going to allow us to do is pick this center, pick this corner right here, this point, and then it's going to align those two vertically together. All right, so we got that one. Let's go ahead and get in here and get this dimension from the bottom. So we're going to grab this one. We're going to center click twice to get out of there. We're going to left click once on there. And we're going to replace that dimension with one that shows center point here, come on out over here and leave that distance 1.68 inches. Of course, after we double click in there and get that adjusted. And now all that's left to do is go ahead and trim some things away that we don't need. So we're going to delete a segment. We can either click on these, remember, or we can left click and hold down and draw a line through what we want to get rid of. And there we go. So once we exit out of that, we've made those trims. We see that our region, our area goes ahead and gets shaded in orange. Shaded orange is our indication that our sketch is manifold, that it is closed off, and it is ready to go. So at this point, our dimensions are all set up in there. Let's go ahead and hit that OK. And since we started out in that revolve function, we end up with our center of this thing done. So let's go ahead and look at that front side. Let's zoom this way out because we have a dimension that's laying out somewhere way out there, but that's okay. All right, let's go back and refer to our instructions here. Now here's where you're going to have a little bit of freedom. Essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use a new tool. It's called the sweep tool. And what the sweep tool does is what it does is it allows us to take a sketch that we create and then move that sketch along the path of another. So we're going to draw a line, and we see this line here on this side view in the directions, okay, which is straight. It has some tangent arcs in there. It has some dimensions. If you want to go ahead and get that dimensioned exactly like it is in there, you certainly can. If you want to play around and use some splines in there, try a couple different ways to get this part of things done. So the first thing that we need to do in order to get that going is that we need to go ahead and start a sketch on this front plane. All right, so let's start a sketch. We're going to go ahead and sketch right there, and we're going to sketch something that looks similar to that. All right, so let's go ahead, let's do a line. Let's start out somewhere in the center here. Bring it out to the edge here. And go ahead and end that line. I'm going to grab a spline tool. And I'm going to start to give myself something that looks a little bit like we're wanting in here, okay? And then when we're done with that spline, we'll go ahead and center click to exit out of there. Center click twice to get out of there. And then we can play around with this. We can move this sketch around a little bit if like it, but I'm going to go that that's going to be okay. Remember, we can edit dimensions here if we need to. Okay, to adjust things a little bit. We want to adjust the extent of that. We can stretch things out a little bit here by double clicking into that one and adjusting that to 3.75. Stretch it out a little bit. There we go. All right. So there's our sketch there, the path that we're going to use to go ahead and create that feature there using our new tool. All right, so we're going to hit OK and end that sketch. And we're going to start a new tool, which is the sweep tool. Okay, so we're going to click into sweep. All right, and then we're going to have some options here, a whole lot of options. Sweep is a really powerful tool. We're going to go ahead and look through the options here that are available to us. Okay. We need to sketch something first. And if we look and we change our viewpoint here and come on over to this left side, let's see where that sketch is by default. Let's start a sketch. There's the end point of our line, right? Because see how that sketch where that's starting is that it's putting that origin of that sketch right there. Look at that, isn't that nice? So it puts it right there for us. Okay, so with this one, I'm gonna back out of that tool. I want to move that circle up a little bit higher. So I get something that approximates what we see in the directions. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a rectangle. Let's snap to that point, snap there, and bring it down. I know I'm looking at an off angle. Let's go back and look at it from the left so we can see it and see what we're doing here is we're sketching that shape that we want each of these arms or this original arm that we're going to sweep. So we're going to we've set that path by drawing the spline. And now we're sketching what we want the shape of that thing to look like as it follows that path. All right, let's go ahead and delete some segments out of here so we get a sketch that we can do something with. Okay. Hit OK on that sketch. And as soon as we hit that OK, we've set that point on the end here. We created that sketch around it, and then it's going to go ahead and it's going to follow that. Now, sometimes you might get an error as that sketch is trying to follow that path that you laid out. And if you get an error, usually the reason you get an error is because you've got too much going on with your spline. Okay, or the relationship of the angle between that sketch you created and that spline just doesn't work. So if we have a really curved spline and we have a steep angle to start off as, we're trying to follow that. Eventually, at some point, that three-dimensional body you're sweeping as you're following that path is going to get twisted up. And the software is going to go, can't go ahead and do that. Math gets to be a little bit hard on there, and it just doesn't work out, so it throws it out. All right, so we have that one done. We have one completed. Let's hit OK to finish that one. Now from here on out, we're really into some normal things that we've been doing already. All right, so we've done a pattern. Have we done a pattern to this point yet? We have done a little bit of patterning so far, but we're going to do a pattern with a feature now. So this is relatively new for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick that sweep. We want to make sure that we've highlighted the sweep here in our model tree. We're going to come to this pattern, and we're going to choose that pattern option. And under pattern, there's a whole lot of options. We have the thing selected already. We're going to choose this from a dimension 1 to an axis pattern. And don't worry that body, our sweep disappears because it's become a little bit different step in the history now. It's become a sub part of this pattern. All right, so we've chosen axis. So we got to go ahead and pick an axis. So let's go ahead and bring that CSYS back because we can use that as that axis, and I just chose it right there, chose that y-axis, the vertical one. Okay, so now we see we have a couple of dots around here, and those are the number of instances by default that it's going to create, copies that it's going to create of that original sweep and place them in a pattern. So right now the settings here, it says we have 4 first direction members. So we're going around in one axis in one direction. Okay. We have 4 of those. I'm going to change that to 3 because I only want there to be 3. Okay. Now notice that the other stuff didn't change over here, the angle between the members. So if we have 3, Pretty easy math there. We have 360 degrees in a complete circle, right? And we're going to divide that by 3, so we're going to have 120 degrees. When you get to be a little more complicated, if I'm doing 16 instances of this, maybe 360 divided by 16 isn't something that's going to jump right in my head. Again, you can do the math right in the field there and go ahead and do that. So we get 120 degrees. We see the dots are aligned essentially like we want them to. So we have the axis. We're going around the right place, the right axis, this vertical axis right here. We have 3 instances with 120 degrees between them. We're going to hit OK. And there we go. We now have 3 of those in place for us. So let's go ahead and get the last part of this. We need to go ahead and essentially do another revolve to go ahead and put that ring around there, right? So we need that ring around the top of it. And we'll add a couple of rounds to smooth things out a little bit, and that'll be that. All right, so another sketch, another revolve. I'm going to start it right here on this plane. Zoom in a little bit. I'm going to get a circle somewhere along where that center looks to be, because I need that to pass through all these things, right, and not hang out. Draw that circle. Looks fine to me. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. An axis. A y-axis again. What we see, look at that. There we go. All right, let's turn off some of this stuff. Let's hit OK to select that. Let's go ahead and turn those planes off because they're a little distracting now. And CSYS, we're good. It's done its job now. Let's just go in and clean things up a little bit. I believe directions want you to add a few fillets at 1/8 of an inch, essentially where these pattern sweeps meet your center. So let's go ahead and add some rounds. Change that radius to 1/8 of an inch. Come on in. And remember, as you get more complicated geometry here, sometimes Creo isn't going to get everything as far as making sure that that wraps all the way around the whole entirety of that feature, right? Because sometimes, like in this case, this geometry gets to be a little bit more complicated when we add those rounds on there. And either Creo programming in there, because remember, there is AI functionality built into this that helps us determine where those things are going to go. And either the AI isn't getting where you want to go, essentially, or it just realizes that maybe it's a little programming's a little better than we realize, and it's just thinking, let's not go ahead and do that quite yet. At this point, if you want to go ahead and play around with the whole function and try that out, and add a little hole to the bottom down here, something that could be used for mounting, that's great. If you want to play around and try and put some notches into this for where your hands would go, if you've ever grabbed onto one of these larger valves, they have little indents where your fingers can go so you can get a better grip on there. You want to add that to that, go ahead, feel free and do that. Play around a little bit, go a little bit crazy with it if you'd like. But that's it. All right, that's exercise 4, and I am out. See you later. Good luck.